Hey friends, today we're working on this Ingram Banjo wind-up wall clock. This item was given to me by a friend to see if we could repair it. They love the way it looks, so we're going to do our best not to alter anything and just focus on repairing the movement of this clock. But before we get into the repair, let's take a small dive into the makeup of a clock and some of the terminology we'll be using in this video. If you already know this info, feel free to click here to skip to the next section of the video. Now, the movement of a clock simply refers to the parts of the clock that move. This is the heart of the clock, essentially. It's everything inside here that's brass that you see. We refer to all these gears as the train of the clock. Now, the mainspring of the clock holds all of the potential energy for the movement, and this is what allows the clock to function. Two of the biggest factors for the mainspring are the width and the length. The width of the mainspring determines how much power is released into the movement, and the length of the mainspring determines how long the mainspring stays wound. The escapement of the movement is the mechanism that transfers the power of the mainspring into the counting mechanism of the movement. That sounds complicated, but really it's just where that power goes to make sure the clock stays running. In this case, this gear here is our escapement. It has tilted teeth that transfer power back into the pallet fork here, and that in turn push the pallet fork against this balance wheel, which will spring back and forth and push the pallet fork back into the next notch of the escape wheel. This back and forth movement is the beating in this heart. It's also that tick-tock noise you hear in most clocks. Now, this escape wheel is also the oscillator of the clock, or the piece that keeps the clock in time. The speed of the clock can be adjusted based on how quickly this wheel hits the pallet fork back and forth. Back to the repair. Here we have the broken mainspring that we removed from the movement. When a mainspring breaks, all of the potential energy is released at once, and it's often dangerous and destructive to the rest of the movement. Since we don't know the last time this clock was even serviced, we're going to go ahead and also do an overhaul of the clock while we change the mainspring. This essentially just means stripping down the entire clock, cleaning every piece, and then reassembling and oiling the movement. So let's get into it. Here is where we encounter some of the damage caused by that mainspring snapping. This tooth on this gear is pushed into the other side of this other tooth, causing some catch between the train. We just need to carefully bend this back into place and we're good to go. Now, if you look carefully here, we can also see that this gear that is next to the mainspring is bent. We can fix this pretty easily as well just by bending it back into place. Now that we've fixed these issues, let's get back into assembly. Now that the movement is back together, it's time to oil our train and escapement. We're just using some standard clock oil and being very careful not to add too much oil to any part. On the escapement, we want to oil every other tooth and to add oil to the pallet fork to ensure the energy gets transferred as efficiently as possible. It's important to use 100% synthetic oil for this. We want to avoid any oil that can harden or turn into more of a grease substance, and that's just going to impede the movement. We also want to use an oil that isn't going to attract contaminants into the movement and add further interference. The last thing to do is to check the timing of the clock and to make any adjustments as necessary to ensure that the clock keeps proper time. Here we have our final product. This antique clock is back to functioning order and looks great. I'll just slip a business card with a discount on a yearly oil here, and we'll be giving this back as soon as we can. Thanks for watching, friends. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to see our next projects. If you liked or disliked something about the video, or have a project you'd like to suggest for a future video, go ahead and leave a comment down below. You can find more information about how to get in contact with Kilmer Repair down in the description. Until next time, keep creating, keep restoring, and remember, not everything broken needs to be forgotten. Catch you in the next video.